Xiaomi started focusing on trendy design starting with the Redmi Note 7 Pro. And while the Redmi Note 7 Pro wasn't exactly the most beautiful thing, from there to the Redmi Note 8 Pro, I think this is a massive jump. The white variant here is especially very eye-catching, and the only other phone under 20,000 that comes to my mind when I look at this is the Realme XT. Now the ergonomics are quite nice. That said, I do like the thinner feel of the Realme XT. The colors on the Redmi Note 8 Pro are something that I like a lot. The white variant we have, as I said, is beautiful. It is generally difficult to impress me with another color when there's a white one, but the emerald green on the Redmi Note 8 Pro is to die for. Even the dark space grayish color is something I like a lot. The buttons are on the right side of the phone and feel nice and tactile. We have a USB-C port at the bottom with a single speaker grill backed by Smart Amp 2. That is why the speaker, at least for a single unit, sounds quite nice and loud. The headphone jack also produces some good audio. It would not blow your mind, but for most people it should be fine. The one design feature I'm not a big fan of is the fingerprint scanner placement, because it is on the camera module and I ended up with smudges on my camera lens every time I wanted to unlock the phone. You do get used to it after a while, but I would have liked it to be slightly further. What Xiaomi said also makes sense, that because this is a glass back, if you drill one more hole for the fingerprint scanner, then it becomes even more brittle, or it becomes more susceptible to crack, which is why they actually put the fingerprint scanner here. So I guess that's fine. We also have a face unlock which works quite well. It's not the most secure biometric unlock, but it does quickly unlock your phone. Now overall, coming to design, I think the Redmi Note 8 Pro is very beautifully designed. It's the most beautiful Redmi Note series phone that I've seen, and I think you'll like it a lot too. Now coming to display, the Redmi Note 8 Pro uses an LCD panel at Full HD Plus resolution and is now taller and bigger than ever. I quite like the design of this display, which is of course bigger but also squarer, which makes it look even bigger. It is protected by Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and back, but we all know that glass scratches no matter what it is. And to save your phone from scratches, you need a good screen protector. Now this phone did not come with a pre-applied screen protector, and I know that it's a hassle to find a good screen guard or a tempered glass when you go outside for a brand new phone. Well, our sponsors today are going to help you, because Glazed Ink provides you high quality screen protectors. They're the ones who actually bring screen protectors for every new phone. So whenever you have a new phone, for India specifically, where there are so many phones launching, you'll have screen guards and screen protectors for all of these phones. Glazed Ink will provide you that. They are also providing this high quality tempered glass at a very nominal price. And the best thing is that for you as a special Mr. Phone user, you get a discount on it. So the coupon code will be flashed on your screen right now. So I don't know what you're waiting for. Go ahead and get yourself a new screen protector. The display is colorful and crisp. That said, in outdoor conditions, I did feel a little underwhelmed by how the display looked. The color accuracy is quite on point. There is widewine L1 certification, and you do get 8-bit HDR with this, which actually makes it among the very few phones available under 20K with HDR. The color accuracy is quite on point, and there's no light bleed as such, and I trust Xiaomi to actually give you high quality panels. Now the one thing that I found as a problem with this display was not necessarily with the display, but maybe with the software, and that was because there's some aggressive palm rejection happening through the software, and when you actually try to type, you end up clicking the search button or the corner buttons a lot of times to actually hit them, because that was happening a lot with me. You can see on the screen that happening right now. Now there are phones under 20,000 that come with AMOLED display, so if you're someone who wants those deep blacks, then you can go for that. But I think this big and bright display is very unique to the Redmi Note 8 Pro, and it also comes with HDR, which if works well, then is something that very few phones can offer you under 20,000. Moving on to software, the Redmi Note 8 Pro runs MIUI 10 built on top of Android 9 Pie, and it's good. The amount of work Xiaomi has put into the skin, the years of tweaking does show. The UI feels mature, and the tiny things like the icon designs, the quick settings panel, the smaller menus, all of them feel refined. More than that, the battery optimization, the back end, the way the background processes are being handled are all things that show maturity. Apart from the Google Assistant, for the first time in a smartphone that at least I am reviewing, we get Alexa built in. This is a nice thing to have, because there are things that Alexa can do that the Google Assistant can't, and it's just good to have two assistants. Who doesn't want two assistants? Now with this one, another advantage that you have is that generally if you buy an Amazon Echo, you need to have a Prime account. And while you would not get a free Prime account with the Redmi Note 8 Pro, Alexa will be able to play songs from Amazon Music even if you do not have your own Prime account. The ad experience has subdued a lot, but it's still here. There'll be times when I'm watching a video locally on my phone, and once it's finished, there'll be ads all around it. I also get notifications from the Xiaomi apps, but that's actually pretty fine. It's not as intrusive as the ads that I get in the first party apps from Xiaomi. There was also a time when there were ghost touches happening, and the ability to record the screen natively on the phone actually helped me show this. So if you can see this clip here, you'll see some weird things were happening when I wasn't even touching the screen of the phone. Now I'm sure again it's a small glitch on my pre-production unit, and it would be unwise to judge the stability of the software from this unit. That is something that would happen because Xiaomi does stuff a lot of new things in their phones, and it's actually difficult to refine all of them when you have so many things. Now that's a good thing, but it's a double-edged sword, and that's what's happening right now, where you might get a lot of features but you might not get the stability every time in every little app. Now I think Xiaomi actually needs to hit a balance, because this has happened with the Redmi Note 7 Pro as well, where we did not get a stable software even sometime after the launch of the phone, and there were problems with stabilization, frame rates in video in Redmi Note 7 Pro long time after it launched. So I guess this year with the Redmi Note 8 Pro, because Xiaomi knows what happened last time, this year Xiaomi will make sure that nothing of that sort happens. And with how Xiaomi has been doing in the past, giving software updates very quickly, I'm actually quite hopeful that none of those things will happen this year. Now coming to performance, inside the Redmi Note 8 Pro sits MediaTek's beastly Helio G90T, which is one of the most powerful chipsets from the company ever. This one beats some very beefy processors in benchmarks. And the G90T actually uses 4 Cortex A76 cores from ARM and 4 Cortex A55 cores for, of course, power saving. The 730G, which is the closest Snapdragon processor, uses 2 Cryo 470 cores, and Cryo 470 is essentially the A76 slightly tweaked by Qualcomm. Now the frame rates on my COD and PES were quite nice. Even playing PUBG on it was very smooth. The G90T is absolutely powerful. The graphics performance generally of Adreno chipsets is actually better. So for Qualcomm chipsets, you do have slightly better graphics, but this time the Mali GPU inside the G90T is also very close to that. So you will get unparalleled performance, and under 20,000 there is barely any phone that can beat this. Coming to day-to-day performance, the RAM performance as well, you do get some really good performance out of this phone, and if the software performance stays stable for the longer time, I think you will have a very good experience on this performance wise. Now coming to cameras, we have a 4 camera setup at the back, which at first does look like a 3 camera setup. The standard one is the famed 64 megapixel sensor from Samsung. It's the GW1 sensor. It was announced a long time back, and although Realme was the first one to actually bring it to market and bring it to consumers, Redmi had actually announced it much before. The 64 megapixel camera takes some amazing pictures. You have details in these pictures. Xiaomi does apply that prowess that they've gotten from their years of camera tunings. Phones like the Mi A3, the Mi A2, the Redmi Note 5 Pro, all of them had amazing cameras, and we see the same in the Redmi Note 8 Pro. We also have an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera this time. We have a 2 megapixel depth sensor and a dedicated macro lens as well. So here are pictures taken using the Redmi Note 8 Pro. From my experience with this phone, the pictures actually look pretty damn good. You have great colors in these pictures. The details are pretty nice. The natural aperture and the bokeh on the camera is also pretty nice. The dynamic range, at least on the back camera, is also something that Xiaomi has worked on a lot, because I can just see how good the pictures are even indoors when there is fluorescent light. Redmi is doing a good job. With the front camera, there are some dynamic range issues that are not very bad. Not really on the subject, but if you can see in this picture, the back is completely blown out and it wasn't very bright. But because it has managed to keep the subject well exposed, I don't really have a big problem here. I think the cameras on the Redmi Note 8 Pro are very good. We'll of course do a camera comparison of the Redmi Note 8 Pro, because that is the one that will actually give us a fair idea, a good idea of what is happening and where the camera stands. But for now, if you're someone who's looking for a great camera smartphone as well under 20,000, the Redmi Note 8 Pro is actually very good. Now Now coming to video resolutions, you can shoot up to 4K at 30 FPS. That's the highest quality that it goes to. And you can also shoot 60 FPS using 1080p. The front camera lets you shoot resolutions of about 1080p at 30 FPS. That's the highest resolution that you get. Now the phone does come with a dedicated night mode, which works well as well. If you can take a look at the pictures, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The front camera has also become much better than the Redmi Note 7 Pro, and it's overall a very good camera smartphone now. Lastly, moving to battery, the Redmi Note 8 Pro comes with a big battery bump, and this time we get a 4500 mAh battery inside the Redmi Note 8 Pro, and that is also the reason why the phone is slightly thicker than the Redmi Note 7 Pro and a few other phones as well. The 4500 mAh battery does mean that you get long battery life out of this phone. The 4500 mAh battery in numbers does seem like a slightly bigger upgrade, but if you look at the fact that the display has also gotten bigger, what you'll understand is that the battery life would be very similar to what we got with the Redmi Note 7 Pro. Now in my usage, I actually got a screen on times of about 5.5 hours to 6 hours out of the Redmi Note 8 Pro, which is not phenomenal, but it's not bad either. And generally what happened is that when I left my home in the morning, maybe 8 o'clock with 100% battery, I would generally end up with 3% or 2% battery by 11 or 12 o'clock, which is pretty damn good. So that's great battery life out of the Redmi Note 8 Pro. And this time, finally, it has been a long time coming, but you get 18-watt charger inside the box. Now, even Apple this year rolled out an 18-watt charger for the iPhones, and I guess Xiaomi was following them, so you got an 18-watt charger, but you have that in the box, and to have that with the Redmi Note 8 Pro is a big thing. So I guess for people who thought that you don't have a fast charger with the Redmi Note 8 Pro, Redmi has caught up with the competition, and now you have that 18-watt charger, which actually takes about 2 hours to charge from 0 to 100, which is very good for 4500 mAh. Now finally, talking about the Redmi Note 8 Pro, is the Redmi Note 8 Pro worth it? Well, absolutely. Let's look at it. The design is absolutely beautiful. It looks like a premium smartphone for the under 20,000 price range. Then you go to the display, and although it is not an AMOLED display, it is one of the best LCD displays that you can find. It's bright, it's colorful, it's punchy. You can get all of that, and it comes with true 8-bit HDR. So you get that for the under 20,000 price range. Then you go to the processor, and you have a very powerful Helio G90T. Again, a phone with a chipset that has been specifically made for gaming. And even if you're not a gamer, you'll feel pretty good with all that power inside. Then you come to a 4500 mAh battery, 18-watt charging. You get MIUI 10 based on top of Android 9 Pie. And hopefully MIUI 11 is also coming very soon to this. And you have a great set of cameras at the back and the front. I think this phone is the one to beat. After the Redmi Note 7 Pro, which did set a high precedent, the Redmi Note 8 Pro has actually been a very successful successor in my opinion. Now after the Redmi Note 7 Pro, the Redmi Note 8 Pro does look like a very worthy successor to it. And if you're someone who's looking to buy the Redmi Note 8 Pro or was waiting for it, I think this is a great smartphone, and you should spend your money on it if you like it. Now, if you are someone who's waiting for the Redmi Note 8 Pro, then currently I can tell you that this is a very good smartphone to buy, the most powerful at least under 20,000. Now, if you're someone who's willing to wait, then the Realme XT 730G is actually coming very soon, maybe next month. And in that time, you can actually wait around and see how this performs as well. So if you're someone who's willing to wait till the next Realme phone launches, then you can compare both these phones and see which one is better for you. But right now, if you want to go get a device, then the Redmi Note 8 Pro is actually a very, very good choice. And there are very few phones under 20,000 that can beat this one as a good buying choice.